Part 1, 10 Posts, 10 Deaths. Hello, my name is Detective Rachel Kim, and I've been investigating cybercrimes and digital forensics for the NYPD for 8 years. I've tracked down online predators, exposed cyberbullying rings, and traced digital footprints that criminals thought they'd erased. But nothing in my career prepared me for what started on the morning of March 3rd, when 10 people posted the exact same message on social media and then died within 24 hours. The call came at 6:23 a.m. from our social media monitoring unit. They'd flagged an unusual pattern, 10 different accounts across Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all posting identical messages at exactly 3:33 a.m. I know the truth. I'm sorry. Could be a meme or challenge, Officer Marcus Chen said when he briefed me. Except all 10 accounts went silent after posting, and we're getting reports that some of these people are dead. Dead? How many? 3 confirmed so far. 2 apparent suicides, 1 possible overdose. But it's only been 3 hours since the posts went up. I pulled up the posts on my screen. 10 profiles, 10 identical messages, posted at the exact same timestamp. The accounts belong to different people, different ages, locations, backgrounds. A teacher in Boston, a lawyer in Chicago, a college student in Seattle, a retired veteran in Miami, a nurse in Denver. No obvious connection between them. Get me everything on these 10 people, I ordered. Phone records, financial data, social media history, known associates. And find out if any more of them are dead. By noon, the death toll had risen to 7. By 6 p.m., it was 9. By midnight, all 10 were gone. Car crash, suicide by hanging, overdose, drowning, fall from a building, each death looked different, but the timing was impossible to ignore. 10 people posting the same cryptic message, then dying within 24 hours. The media caught onto the story by evening, and it exploded across social networks. #LastPost was trending worldwide, with thousands of people sharing theories, creating tribute pages, and posting their own messages saying, "I know the truth," in solidarity or morbid curiosity. "We need to shut that hashtag down," Captain Rodriguez said during our emergency briefing. "If this is some kind of suicide cult or death game, we don't want copycats." But it was too late. The story had gone viral, and every news outlet was covering it. Mystery deaths linked to social media posts, 10 strangers, 1 message, all dead. What truth did they know? I spent that first night reviewing every detail of the victims' lives, looking for connections. Sarah Martinez, 34, elementary school teacher from Boston, no criminal record, active in her community, engaged to be married. Robert Chen, 45, corporate lawyer from Chicago, successful career, 2 kids, coached Little League. Jessica Torres, 21, college student from Seattle, honor roll, volunteering at homeless shelters, studying environmental science. On the surface, they had nothing in common. Different cities, different professions, different social circles. Their social media histories showed no interaction with each other, no shared friends, no mutual likes or comments, nothing to suggest they knew each other existed. But they must have been connected somehow. 10 people don't post identical cryptic messages and die on the same day by coincidence. I dug deeper into their backgrounds, going back years. And that's when I found it, a single connection point, buried in old archived social media posts and digital breadcrumbs. 10 years ago, all 10 victims had been in the same place at the same time. August 15, 2015. A wellness retreat in upstate New York called Harmony Haven. It was a week-long program focused on meditation, self-discovery, and spiritual awakening. According to archived websites and promotional materials, about 50 people attended that particular retreat. I pulled up photos from Harmony Haven's social media from that week. Group meditation sessions, nature hikes, bonfire gatherings. And there, in various photos, I spotted all 10 victims. They'd been at the same retreat, participated in the same activities, spent a week together at this remote location. "That's our connection," I told Marcus the next morning. "Whatever truth they knew, they learned it at that retreat 10 years ago." So why post about it now? Why all die on the same day? That's what we need to find out. Get me a list of everyone who attended that retreat. And find out everything you can about Harmony Haven, who ran it, what happened there, why it closed down. Marcus worked his magic with databases and archives. Harmony Haven had been operated by an organization called The Awakening Path, led by a man named Dr. Elias Thorne. The retreat had run for 3 years before shutting down abruptly in 2016, shortly after the session our victims attended. No explanation given for the closure, Marcus reported. The property was sold, and Dr. Thorne disappeared from public records. No social media presence, no forwarding address, no activity at all after 2016. What about the other attendees from that retreat? The 40 people who aren't dead? Working on tracking them down. But Rachel, look at this. He pulled up a news article from October 2015, 2 months after the retreat. 3 people who attended Harmony Haven that summer died under mysterious circumstances within weeks of each other. Ruled as accidents and suicides, but the timing raised questions. There was a brief investigation, but nothing came of it. So it wasn't just 10 deaths now. It was 13. And potentially 40 more people at risk if whatever happened at that retreat was still affecting people a decade later. I requested a warrant to access the victims' private messages and emails, looking for any communication between them in recent weeks. What I found was chilling. 2 weeks before their deaths, all 10 victims had received the same email from an anonymous account. The subject line was, "Remember Harmony Haven." The body of the email contained a single sentence. "The truth must be told. August 15th, 3:33 a.m., 10 years later." Someone had sent them a reminder, a trigger, scheduling their confessions and deaths down to the exact minute. "This is orchestrated," I said to Captain Rodriguez. "Someone wanted these people dead, wanted them to confess to something first, and timed it precisely. Could it be blackmail gone wrong? Threatening to expose something unless they paid? Maybe. But why make them post publicly before dying? If you're blackmailing someone, you want silence, not confession." I studied the timestamp again. 3:33 a.m., exactly 10 years after August 15th. That specific timing meant something. It was ritualistic, symbolic. This wasn't just about silencing witnesses or covering up a crime. This was about belief. About programming. About control. "Captain, I think we're dealing with a cult. Harmony Haven wasn't just a wellness retreat. It was indoctrination. And whatever Dr. Thorne did to these people 10 years ago, it's still active in their minds, still controlling them. You're saying they were brainwashed? Programmed to kill themselves a decade later? I'm saying we need to find the other attendees immediately. Because if I'm right, they're all at risk. And we need to find Dr. Elias Thorne, because he's the only one who can tell us what he did to these people and how to stop it." We issued alerts to law enforcement nationwide, flagging the names of the 40 surviving retreat attendees we'd identified. Most responded with confusion. They remembered attending Harmony Haven but didn't understand why police were contacting them. A few didn't respond at all, which worried me. I decided to visit one of them in person. Michael Stevens lived in Brooklyn, just a few hours from where I was based. According to our records, he was 38 years old, worked in IT, and had attended the August 2015 retreat at Harmony Haven. When I arrived at his apartment building at 8 p.m., his neighbor told me he was home. She'd seen him earlier. But he wasn't answering his door. I had a bad feeling. I called for backup and got the building manager to open the door. Michael Stevens sat at his desk, staring at his computer screen, completely motionless. His eyes were open but unfocused, his breathing shallow. On the screen in front of him was a social media compose box with text already typed. "I know the truth. I'm sorry." His finger hovered over the post button, trembling slightly, as if fighting against pressing it. "Michael," I said carefully, approaching him. "Can you hear me? My name is Detective Kim. I'm here to help you." He didn't respond, didn't even seem to register my presence. His eyes remained fixed on the screen, on that message he'd been programmed to post. Michael, you don't have to post that. Whatever you think you need to do, you don't. You're safe here. Slowly, painfully, his eyes shifted to look at me. When he spoke, his voice was hollow, distant, like it was coming from very far away. The trigger, the phrase, he said we'd remember when it was time. That we'd know what to do. That the truth would demand to be told. What truth, Michael? What did Dr. Thorne tell you? We saw what he did. What happened that night. The ritual in the woods. The girl who didn't wake up. He said if we ever told anyone, if we ever spoke the truth, we'd have to atone. We'd have to join her. My blood ran cold. A death at the retreat. A ritual. Dr. Thorne had made witnesses to a crime, then programmed them to kill themselves if they ever tried to expose him. Michael, listen to me. You're not going to atone for anything. You're a victim here, not a criminal. And that girl, if someone died at that retreat, if Dr. Thorne killed her, he's the one who needs to pay, not you. But even as I spoke, Michael's finger moved closer to the post button. The programming was too strong, the conditioning too deep. He'd been carrying this trigger in his mind for 10 years, and now it was activating, overriding his conscious will. I grabbed his hand, physically stopping him from posting. He struggled against me, but weakly, his mind clearly torn between following the programming and resisting it. Marcus! I called into my radio. Get a medical team here now. We need psychiatric intervention, someone who specializes in deprogramming and cult psychology. And we need it fast. As paramedics arrived and carefully sedated Michael, I looked at his computer screen, at that message he'd been so desperately compelled to post. 10 people had already posted it and died. 40 more might be sitting at their computers right now, fingers hovering over post buttons, fighting the same battle Michael had almost lost. We had maybe hours to find Dr. Elias Thorne and figure out how to break his hold on these people's minds. Because if we didn't, the death toll was about to get much, much higher. And somewhere out there, the man who'd orchestrated all of this was watching, waiting, confident that his programming would hold, that his secrets would die with his victims. He was wrong. I was going to find him. I was going to expose what happened at Harmony Haven 10 years ago. And I was going to make sure that girl, whoever she was, finally got justice. The investigation was just beginning, but I already knew one thing for certain: this case would haunt me until I solved it. 10 people dead, 40 more at risk, and a truth so dangerous that a man had programmed people to kill themselves rather than speak it. What could be worth that much death? What secret was so terrible that it required such extreme measures to protect? I was about to find out. And when I did, the world was going to learn the truth that Dr. Elias Thorne had tried so desperately to bury. Part 2: The Retreat's Dark Secret. Michael Stevens was hospitalized under psychiatric observation, heavily sedated to prevent him from completing the programmed suicide. But we'd only bought time. The compulsion was still there, buried in his mind, waiting for any opportunity to activate again. I needed to understand exactly what Dr. Thorne had done to these people if I was going to save the others. I assembled a team of experts: Dr. Patricia Morrison, a psychiatrist specializing in cult deprogramming, Agent David Liu from the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, and Dr. Yuki Tanaka, who'd consulted on my previous case involving neural manipulation. We needed to combine our knowledge to crack this before more people died. This level of post-hypnotic suggestion is extremely sophisticated, Dr. Morrison said as we reviewed Michael's psychiatric evaluation. He's describing what sounds like layered conditioning, multiple sessions of hypnosis, probably combined with psychoactive substances, isolation, sleep deprivation. Classic cult indoctrination techniques, but taken to an extreme. Can you deprogram him? I asked. Possibly. But it takes time, weeks or months of careful therapy. And we have 40 people potentially experiencing the same compulsion. We can't hospitalize and deprogram all of them before they're triggered again. Agent Liu pulled up files on Dr. Elias Thorne. Former psychology professor at Columbia University, published extensively on consciousness, altered states, and behavioral modification. Lost his tenure in 2012 after allegations of unethical experiments on students, specifically using hypnosis without proper consent. Started Harmony Haven shortly after, claiming he'd found revolutionary techniques for spiritual awakening. Revolutionary techniques for mind control, more likely. I muttered. What about his background? Family, associates, known locations? No family on record. His associates from the university days have all distanced themselves. As for current location, he's been completely off-grid since Harmony Haven closed. No credit card activity, no phone records, no paper trail at all. I needed to visit the site itself, see where this had happened. Marcus, arrange a trip to the old Harmony Haven property. I want to see the location, search for any evidence that might have been left behind. The property was sold and redeveloped, Marcus reported. It's now a corporate retreat center called Mountain Serenity. But the original buildings are still standing. We drove up to upstate New York the next morning, me, Marcus, Agent Lou, and Dr. Morrison. The property was beautiful in a haunting way, nestled in dense forest with a main lodge and several smaller cabins surrounding it. The new owners had renovated extensively, but the bones of Harmony Haven remained. The current manager, a woman named Susan Park, met us at the entrance. I heard about the deaths connected to this place. Terrible tragedy. When we bought the property in 2017, we knew it had been a wellness retreat, but we didn't know about any incidents. Were there any records left behind? I asked. Documents, files, anything from the previous ownership? The place was mostly cleared out. But there's a storage room in the basement we haven't touched, old furniture, supplies, some boxes of paperwork. You're welcome to search it. The basement was cold and damp, filled with forgotten relics of Harmony Haven's past. We spent hours sorting through boxes, promotional materials, attendance records, financial documents. And then I found something that made my blood run cold. A leather-bound journal, filled with handwritten notes and precise, clinical script. Dr. Thorne's personal observations from the August 2015 retreat. Day 1. Subjects arrived. Initial assessment shows promising susceptibility levels. We'll begin baseline hypnosis sessions tonight. Day 2. Deep trance achieved in 43 of 50 subjects. The remaining 7 show resistance. We'll increase dosage of the compound in evening tea. Day 3. All subjects now responsive to suggestion. Beginning implantation of the anchor phrase and trigger conditions. The truth they will carry must never surface. I flipped through pages, my hands shaking. This wasn't a spiritual retreat. It was a systematic program of mind control, documented in meticulous detail. Day 5. Rehearsal of emergency protocol successful. Subjects demonstrate complete compliance with termination commands when anchor phrase is activated. They will believe it is their choice, their need for atonement. Day 6. The incident with Subject 23 was unfortunate but necessary. She discovered the recording equipment in the ritual chamber. Could not allow her to expose the experiment. Other subjects witnessed the termination. Will use this as the truth they must protect. If they ever speak of what happened here, they must join her. The guilt will be their cage. Subject 23. The girl who died. She'd discovered that Thorne was recording everything, that the entire retreat was an experiment, not genuine spiritual guidance. And he'd killed her for it, then used her death to further control the other attendees. This is premeditated murder, Agent Lou said, reading over my shoulder. And 49 counts of psychological assault. We need to find Thorne now. But the journal's final entry, dated August 20th, 2015, made that complicated. The experiment is complete. Results exceeded expectations. Subjects will carry the programming indefinitely, with no awareness of its presence until triggered. Have set the activation date for 10 years hence, long enough that any investigation will be cold, that authorities will see only inexplicable suicides, not the pattern. By then, I will have moved to the next phase. The Harmony Haven subjects were merely the prototype. The real work begins now. Next phase? Dr. Morrison breathed. He's done this elsewhere. To other people. My phone rang. It was Captain Rodriguez. Kim, we've got a problem. Social media is lighting up with more posts. Same message, same timestamp, but these are new people. 20 more just posted I know the truth. I'm sorry. What? That's impossible. We identified all the Harmony Haven attendees. These aren't from Harmony Haven. We're tracing their backgrounds now, but preliminary check shows they attended something called Enlightenment Summit in Oregon in 2017 and Consciousness Workshop in Colorado in 2019. Kim, I think Thorne ran multiple operations under different names. The scope was much bigger than I'd thought. Harmony Haven wasn't an isolated incident. It was the first of many. How many people are we talking about potentially? If he ran a dozen retreats over the years, each with 50 participants, we could be looking at hundreds of people carrying this programming. I felt sick. Hundreds of people, all over the country, all with the same death trigger buried in their minds, all potentially hours away from posting that message and killing themselves. Captain, we need to go public with this. Warn people who attended any retreat run by Elias Thorne or his aliases. Tell them to seek immediate psychiatric help, to avoid social media, to go to hospitals if they feel any compulsion to post that message. Already drafting the alert. But Kim, if we go public, Thorne will know we're onto him. He'll disappear even deeper. He already knows. Look at the timing. 20 more posts just went up. He's activating them, probably watching the news coverage, enjoying seeing his experiment play out. We need to get ahead of this before he triggers everyone. We issued a nationwide alert through law enforcement channels and major media outlets. If you attended any wellness retreat, consciousness workshop, or spiritual program between 2015 and 2020 led by Dr. Elias Thorne or similar facilitators, seek immediate medical attention. Do not attempt to post on social media. You may be at risk of psychological manipulation. The response was overwhelming. Hotlines were flooded with calls from panicked people who'd attended various retreats, wondering if they were programmed to die. Mental health facilities were overwhelmed trying to assess and treat potential victims. And through it all, more posts kept appearing. I know the truth. I'm sorry. Every few hours, another cluster of people would post and then go silent. By the end of the second day, the death toll had risen to 37. Dr. Morrison worked frantically to develop a deprogramming protocol that could be administered quickly, something that could break Thorne's hold without requiring months of therapy. The trigger is a specific phrase or sensory cue that activates the programming, she explained. If we can identify that trigger and create a counter-trigger, we might be able to neutralize the compulsion. What would the trigger be? Based on Michael's description and the journal entries, I believe it's a combination of the date, time, and seeing or hearing the phrase "I know the truth." When victims see others posting that message, it triggers their own compulsion to post it. It's self-perpetuating. Each death triggers more deaths. So we need to stop the message from spreading. Block it on social media platforms. Already tried, Marcus said. The platforms have implemented filters, but people are circumventing them with variations and images. It's become a morbid phenomenon. Some people are posting it as a meme or tribute, not realizing they're potentially triggering programmed victims. We were losing this battle. Every hour, more people died, and we were no closer to finding Thorne or breaking his hold on his victims. Then I had an idea. Thorne's journal said he's watching this play out. He's documented everything obsessively, kept detailed records. He won't be able to resist observing the results of his experiment. You think he's monitoring the deaths somehow? I think he's online, tracking the hashtags, reading news coverage, possibly even interacting with victims. Marcus, can we monitor social media for accounts that are showing unusual patterns, viewing multiple victim profiles, tracking the deaths in real time, showing knowledge of details that weren't released publicly? That's a massive data set to analyze. Then get help. FBI has cybercrimes divisions that can handle big data. Find me anyone who's been tracking these deaths too closely, who knows too much, who seems too interested. While Marcus coordinated with federal cybercrimes units, I returned to questioning Michael Stevens, who'd regained some lucidity under medication. Michael, you said you saw what happened to the girl, Subject 23. Can you tell me her name? Anything about her? He struggled to remember through the fog of drugs and conditioning. Emily. Emily something. She was young, maybe 19 or 20. Art student from California. She was kind. She noticed things others didn't. That's why she found the cameras. What happened to her body? After Thorn killed her? He told us she'd had a spiritual experience, that she'd transcended, that her body was taken care of. We were made to believe we'd participated in her ascension, that we were bound to protect the sacred truth of what happened. Anyone who spoke would betray her memory and have to join her in transcendence. He weaponized your guilt and turned her death into your cage. Michael's eyes filled with tears. For 10 years, I've carried this weight. Knowing something terrible happened, but unable to speak about it, unable to even fully remember it. And now the programming is telling me I have to die to make it right. You don't have to die, Michael. We're going to stop this. We're going to find Emily's body, prove Thorn murdered her, and break his hold on everyone he's hurt. But I needed to find Emily first. A 19-year-old art student from California disappeared in August 2015, whose body was hidden somewhere near Harmony Haven. I returned to the retreat property with a forensics team and cadaver dogs. If Emily had died there, if her body had been buried on the grounds, we would find her. The dogs led us deep into the forest behind the main lodge, to a spot where the earth seemed disturbed, where the vegetation grew differently. We began carefully excavating. 3 feet down, we found human remains. Female, approximately 20 years old, buried in a shallow grave. She'd been there for 10 years, hidden beneath the forest floor while the retreat continued, while 49 people carried the secret of her death in their programmed minds. We found her. I radioed to Captain Rodriguez. Emily is real. Thorn's murder is real. Now we prove it and stop him from killing anyone else. As forensics worked to identify the remains and collect evidence, Marcus called with news. Rachel, we found something. An account that's been tracking the deaths obsessively, posting cryptic messages about truth and transcendence. The account uses VPN and encrypted connections, but our cybercrimes team traced the activity pattern. They're operating out of a location in Vermont, a property registered to a wellness company called Eternal Awakening Institute. My heart raced. That's him. That's Thorn. He's running another operation, and he's orchestrating these deaths from there. FBI is assembling a tactical team. We move on the location in 2 hours. We were finally going to catch him. The man who'd programmed dozens of people to kill themselves, who'd murdered Emily and made her death the instrument of controlling his victims, who'd treated human minds as experiments to be manipulated and destroyed. Dr. Elias Thorn's reign of psychological terror was about to end. But as we prepared to raid his location, one question haunted me. How many more people had he programmed? How many more ticking time bombs were out there, walking around with triggers in their minds, waiting for the moment when they'd compulsively post, "I know the truth. I'm sorry," and then end their lives? We were about to find out. And I had a terrible feeling that what we'd seen so far was just the beginning of Thorn's true experiment. Part 3: The Compound of Consciousness. The Eternal Awakening Institute sat on a remote property in Vermont's Green Mountains, accessible only by a winding dirt road that snaked through dense forest. From aerial surveillance, it looked like a small compound, one main building, several smaller structures, and what appeared to be dormitories for residents. The FBI tactical team assembled at a staging area 5 miles from the target. Agent Lou briefed us on the approach plan while I studied updated intelligence reports. Thermal imaging shows approximately 30 people inside the main building, another 15 scattered in surrounding structures. We don't know how many are staff versus residents or potential victims. If Thorn has been running another retreat, those residents might be under his influence, Dr. Morrison warned. They could resist rescue, even defend him. They won't understand they're being manipulated. We're prepared for that, Lou said. Non-lethal force unless absolutely necessary. Priority 1 is securing Thorn alive. We need him to understand and undo his programming. Priority 2 is securing any records or research he's maintained. Priority 3 is safely extracting potential victims. I checked my gear, body armor, badge, radio, recording device. Everything I said and saw needed to be documented. This wasn't just an arrest. It was the culmination of an investigation that would expose years of psychological manipulation and murder. At 0400 hours, we moved in. The compound was dark except for a few security lights. Tactical teams secured the perimeter while entry teams breached the main building simultaneously from multiple access points. FBI! Everyone on the ground! Hands where we can see them! The interior was bizarre, part meditation center, part laboratory. The main room had cushions arranged in a circle around a central platform, walls covered in complex mandalas and geometric patterns. But adjacent rooms revealed computer servers, medical equipment, and what looked like sensory deprivation chambers. Residents in simple white robes emerged from dormitories, confused and frightened but compliant. Security staff surrendered without resistance. Within minutes, we'd secured the ground floor and were clearing the upper levels. Second floor clear. No sign of primary target, a team leader reported. Basement access located, another team called out. Locked steel door, appears to lead to sub-level. Of course Thorn would be underground. Men like him always had their sanctums, their private spaces where they conducted their darkest work. Breaching the basement door revealed stairs descending into a sophisticated underground facility. Climate-controlled, well-lit, filled with technology that seemed out of place in what was supposed to be a spiritual retreat. And there, in a central control room surrounded by monitors showing surveillance feeds from multiple locations, sat Dr. Elias Thorn. He was in his 60s, with silver hair and intense eyes that betrayed no fear or surprise at our arrival. He simply sat in his chair, watching the screens, as armed federal agents surrounded him. Dr. Thorn, I'm Detective Rachel Kim. You're under arrest for murder, psychological assault, and conspiracy to commit mass suicide. He smiled, actually smiled, as if I'd told him something amusing. Detective Kim, I've been following your investigation with great interest. You're quite persistent. Though I expected you'd find me a few days later than this. Expected? You wanted to be caught? Eventually, yes. The experiment requires data collection and analysis. I could only observe so much remotely. But having official documentation, having authorities witness and record the results, that adds validity to the research. The casual way he spoke about the deaths, the programming, the suffering, it made my skin crawl. You murdered Emily Williams 10 years ago. You programmed 49 witnesses to kill themselves rather than expose you. And you've continued these programs, affecting hundreds more people. You're a mass murderer. I'm a scientist, he corrected calmly. Emily's death was unfortunate but necessary for the integrity of the initial experiment. And the programming, it's not murder if they choose to end their own lives. I simply provided the framework within which they made that choice. You removed their choice. You took away their free will through manipulation and conditioning. Did I? Or did I simply reveal what's always been true, that free will is an illusion, that human consciousness can be directed and controlled with the right techniques? Detective, everything you think, every decision you make, it's all just biochemical processes and neural patterns. I've simply learned to influence those patterns. Agent Liu stepped forward. Dr. Thorn, we found Emily Williams' remains. We have your journals documenting the murder and the programming protocols. We have survivors willing to testify. You're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. Perhaps. Or perhaps not. You see, Agent Liu, I've spent the last decade preparing for multiple outcomes. Prison is merely one path the experiment could take. There are others. I didn't like the confidence in his voice. What other outcomes? Tell me, detective, how many of my subjects have you identified? How many have you warned, treated, deprogrammed? We've issued public warnings, established hotlines, coordinated with mental health services. But you haven't reached them all, have you? You can't possibly reach them all. I've conducted 23 separate retreats over the past decade, each with between 30 and 50 participants. Some attended multiple sessions, deepening their programming. The triggers I've implanted are varied, sophisticated, layered. The "I know the truth" phrase was just one of many. My blood ran cold. How many? How many people did you program? 842 individuals received deep conditioning. Of those, approximately 600 remain alive and subject to various trigger protocols. The deaths you've witnessed so far represent only the first tier, those with the most recent and intensive conditioning. 842 people. 600 still alive, all carrying psychological time bombs in their minds, waiting to be triggered. You're going to give us the full list. Every name, every trigger, every detail of the programming. And you're going to help us deprogram every single person you've hurt. Thorne leaned back in his chair, that infuriating smile still on his face. Am I? Why would I do that, Detective? The experiment is still ongoing. The data collection is incomplete. Because we'll charge you with 600 counts of attempted murder on top of what you've already done. Because you'll never see daylight again. Because you think justice matters to me? He laughed. I've transcended such primitive concepts. This isn't about avoiding consequences, Detective. It's about completing the research. Understanding the full parameters of human consciousness and its malleability. Dr. Morrison entered the control room, having finished her preliminary assessment of the residents upstairs. Detective, you need to see this. The people upstairs, they're not just retreat attendees. Some of them are former victims from earlier programs. Thorne has been using them as assistants, having them help recruit and condition new subjects. Victims becoming perpetrators, I said. Deepening their programming by making them complicit. It's quite elegant, really, Thorne said. Each layer of involvement makes the conditioning stronger. They can't escape without acknowledging their own participation in harming others. The guilt creates an additional lock on their minds. I wanted to hit him. This man had caused so much suffering, destroyed so many lives, and he spoke about it like discussing a fascinating scientific paper. Search this entire facility, I ordered. I want every computer, every file, every piece of research seized and analyzed. And get Dr. Thorne processed and transported to federal custody. Maximum security, psychiatric evaluation, suicide watch. You think I'm suicidal? Thorne asked, amused. Detective, I don't have programming in my own mind. I'm the programmer, not the programmed. I'll be perfectly fine in custody, observing how the legal system handles the unprecedented nature of this case. As agents led him away, I studied the control room. Multiple monitors showed different locations, retreats that were still operating, facilities I didn't recognize, surveillance feeds from what appeared to be subjects' homes. He'd been watching them all. Monitoring the programmed individuals, tracking their lives, waiting for the moment to activate their triggers. And there, on one screen, a list of names with dates beside them. Scheduled activation dates. Marcus, get over here, I called. These are the trigger schedules. Thorne has been activating different groups on different dates. Marcus pulled up the data. According to this, the next major activation is scheduled for 3 days from now. 115 people, all programmed to post the message and terminate at the same time. Can we prevent it? If we know who they are? If we can reach them in time, get them into psychiatric care, maybe. But 3 days isn't much time to locate and treat over 100 people, especially if they don't know they're programmed. We spent the next hours combing through Thorne's files. His research was meticulous and horrifying, detailed notes on each subject, their susceptibilities, the specific conditioning protocols used on them, the triggers implanted in their minds. Some triggers were date-based, like the original 10-year anniversary activation. Others were event-based, seeing certain symbols, hearing specific phrases, experiencing particular emotional states. Thorne had created a vast network of psychological time bombs, each set to detonate under different circumstances. This is beyond anything I've seen in cult psychology, Dr. Morrison said, pale as she reviewed the files. He's created a multi-tiered system of control with redundancies and fail